Despite society's changing paper needs worldwide, owing to technological advancements, paper still has a role to play in South Africans' everyday lives, especially with the advent of online shopping, which has boosted demand for paper in packaging applications. Paper is therefore here to stay, says Paper Manufacturers Association of South Africa, or PAMSA. PAMSA South Africa Executive Director Jane Maloney says pulp and paper is a robust sector, contributing more than 9 billion rand to South Africa's balance of trade and is largely self-sufficient, except with regard to writing and printing grades of paper.
We don't make coated paper in the country largely because it's economically not viable. You need a big market for it, and we don't have a big market for it. And as you will know, with digital media becoming prevalent, people reading online, there is less demand for printing and writing grades. But we do make A4 copier paper, and we basically supply the country's needs, which I think 180,000 tonnes or thereabout. We do import deep dyed colours, so if you want to do funky stuff with A4 copier paper, then that is imported. But I believe it is actually also produced by Mondi in Europe, so it's an import from one of our own companies, albeit from outside the country. And the same goes for the coated paper. Sappi obviously do produce coated paper, but they produce it in Europe.
Maloney advances that besides its contribution to the country's economy, the existence of South Africa's pulp and paper industry, which is reliant on trees, a renewable resource, also has a positive influence on society.
So we plant trees in rural areas, and the minute you plant trees, you have roads, you have schools developing, you have clinics. So from that sort of perspective, we have a huge impact and a huge footprint. We also employ, if you look at us from planting trees right the way through to making paper and then recycling it, we employ over 150,000 people in the entire sector.
Ensuring the upliftment of those employed by the sector, PAMSA employs a ladder of learning, which includes the recognition of prior learning, adult-based education and training, and guarantees that students that enter the industry are equipped with the correct knowledge. Maloney acknowledges the significance of technology, but stresses the vital role people play in the manufacturing process and thereby the need for proper training.
We work a lot with the fibre processing and manufacturing SETA, so that's the Sectoral Education Training Authority. And what we do is we will ensure that companies get money to assist with training programs, and we also actually develop the curriculum for those training programs. So that way we make sure that our sector has tip-top people and we extra productive, extra efficient, because our biggest challenge is actually a lack of raw material. So we have to maximize what we have and be more efficient and more productive with it.
Complementing this focus on productivity, Maloney also highlights the role of recycling in the pulp and paper industry, owing to its lack of fibre.
We were promised 100,000 hectares of trees back in 2008 when we signed the Forest Sector Transformation Charter, and to date we've probably planted about 12,000 hectares, which is not a lot. So our recycling efforts are fantastic, and our rate currently is 68.4% of paper that can actually be recycled. We couldn't achieve this without those collectors that are out there, those trolley pushers, those SMMEs, those small guys. So what we do to empower them and to develop them and to offer them a better life, we actually run entrepreneur programs, and we have trained over 6,000 people in this area across the entire country, and sometimes in fairly deep rural areas.
This focus on viability extends to the environment, with Maloney dispelling misconceptions about the pulp and paper industry using a lot of water, as it does not employ irrigation, and its overall impact on the environment.
We're very good for the environment. We absorb carbon dioxide, we store carbon in our trees as they are growing, and we also store carbon in the paper that we make. So in actual fact, because the electricity in South Africa is largely generated from coal and from fossil fuels, it means that if you have a document that you're going to read often, it's much better to print it and reread it and reference it from the printed document than it is to keep firing up your computer. Because every time you fire up your computer, you're consuming electricity and you're emitting CO2 into the atmosphere.
To further reduce its impact on the environment and ensure the sustainability of the industry, PAMSA is actively involved in driving innovation and research and development in the sector.
The Paper Manufacturers Association has a process research unit, and we put in excess of R1 million every year into pre-competitive research. So what we do is we develop building blocks which can then be used to develop innovative products, to streamline production, to make a mill more efficient, develop green chemicals, all sorts of exciting products.
Maloney says the industry has had to develop new products to remain sustainable amid a changing business environment, producing products for a myriad of applications such as viscose fabric, food and beverages, health and hygiene products.
So we make things like lignosulfonate from the lignin, and you can use that to as a dust suppressant. You can also use it to improve the flow of concrete, cement, things like that. You can make bioplastics as well. We're not doing it in this country, but we are now making green chemicals. SAPI are involved in producing green chemicals, so in extracting sugars from the waste, from the waste black liquor, which would normally go straight into your recovery boiler. And the exciting thing about that process is that it actually frees up additional capacity in your pulp mill to produce other products as well as adding value add. Paper will be with us always, no matter what or how many naysayers there are. We will always have paper.